Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching this from or when you're watching it in playback. My name is Mike DiMuccio. Welcome to Hanging Out with Mike DiMuccio. Special guest this evening, good friend, very good friend of mine, Igor Gruendl, Royal Diamond. He's coming at us from Sarasota, Florida. If you are interested in asking a question of myself or Igor, please feel free to give us a chat, either on our Google Plus page, look for the Royal Alliance, and add us to your circles, or our Twitter at Royal Alliance 1, that's the number 1. And also we're monitoring our Facebook page, so look for the Royal Alliance on Facebook, send us a question, we'll be more than happy to address that through the course of this show. So let me get straight to it. Welcome to the show, Igor Gruendl, Royal Diamond consultant from Sarasota, Florida. How you doing?
Well, good evening. I'm doing great.
Awesome to have you. It's been... You know, what I like about this interview, Igor, most is that you and I go back a long way. So I kind of want to get through that whole story because we've shared some great experiences, both as business partners, business associates in Nikan Crossline, and as friends. We've had some awesome times traveling with friends and family, and we'll get to that. So for most people who don't know your story, we're going to go wind the clock all the way back to when you, like me, had a ponytail. And I guess there's something positive in that. We both lost the ponytail, but we've gained a lot in the process. Anyway, Igor, welcome to the show, and let's hear a little bit about your background, where your story started before Nikan was your mainstay.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of story before that. So I actually grew up in the United States, in Boston and San Francisco, and then in 1970 went back to Europe, and I studied economics. And my mother had a clothing store, actually a couple of those, and I started working there. Didn't kind of like being tied down, you know, a store. I didn't like having to open up a door and waiting for customers. So I moved on, and I became actually a distribution manager for a German designer, and I did the European distribution. I was trying to please my parents to find something in the fashion business that I really like. I know some people are predestined for it. I was not. So anyway, I also had my own T-shirt collection, and then I also worked in advertising, of course, specializing in the fashion business. After which I said, this is just not for me. And I immigrated in 1989 into the United States in the hope that I will find something in the health and wellness field. Actually, I was going to be in the field that I'm in anyway. I thought it was just going to be a little bit different. So arriving in the United States, I changed my occupation completely. I actually became a massage therapist. I studied shiatsu therapy, neuromuscular therapy, and then went on to study physical therapy and became a suspension table therapist, and I helped people with severe lumbar problems. So worked for an orthopedic doctor from Germany, and thought that was going to be my path, you know, for the rest of my life. Until 1995, in June of 1995, I was introduced to Nikan by an acquaintance of mine who actually invited me to a presentation of somebody who was here from Hawaii in Sarasota that was going to tell us how magnets work on living things. And very quickly did I find out that the first row, which had only 4 chairs, was also the last row, and that there were only 3 other people with me in there. And it was in a computer store, so it was quite interesting. I want
to pause for that because that's pretty amazing. Because that, you would have to admit, that's pretty modest. I mean, for someone to present this huge opportunity in that environment, first of all, so few people, and obviously a computer store, and yet that meeting changed your. And by the way, I just want to mention, you're a very modest person, so I want to just shout out a little bit about your credentials, because I probably should have started this way, and that is, I mean, you're literally a rags to riches story here, and you're going to probably touch on that momentarily as to where you were at when you first got started. But
Right.
you went silver in 14 days, gold in 15 months, platinum in 27 months, diamond in 5 years, royal diamond in 7 years. You've averaged $50,000 a month in earnings. That's career earnings over $10 million. You're one of the top income earners in ECAN, President's Club member, Millionaires Club, and yet. And by the way, congratulations on all of that. And yet your beginnings started in this little tiny, electronics store,
Yeah.
computer store, with 4 people in a room, and you were a reluctant guest.
I was a very reluctant guest, correct.
Continue, please.
Yeah, because after that meeting, I saw it as my civil duty, to tell these guys that this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And but yet, I'm thankful. Maybe I don't know if I studied economics or because I grew up in a family that had their own business, but the numbers kind of kept me looking at it. I didn't want to be part of whatever was going on because I know what network marketing is about, even though I've never participated in anything. But it's that typical I know what this is thing, and I got caught up in it. But the thought of the information that I was presented did actually not let me go to sleep that night. And one of the reasons why I came to the United States is because I wanted to create a life that was free of certain things. I wanted to be able to create my own life to at that time I had a family. My son was 4 months old. I wanted to provide for my family. But seriously, I did not want to see my employer drive home with a nicer car. I didn't like that. I wanted to have a nice home. I didn't have a nice home. I had a very small home. I had an 802 square foot home. I was living the American dream by that time. I had over $30,000 in credit card debt, and I thought, my ship has left the harbor without me. And so when I was at that meeting, it was almost like there was that inner voice, that said, you got to take a second look here. You got to ask some questions. Even though I told the people that invited me, please don't ever call me. I'll buy a couple of products, I'll use them. If they work, I'll be happy. If not, then I've lost nothing. And lucky enough, that evening or that night, something kept me up, and I just thought it through. I said, well, what if? What if it's all true? What if this could change my life forever? And I had no clue how it would change my life, but I know that there's, like my situation then, I mean, there's people every day that are looking. And like with myself, I mean, this opportunity or this possibility or this idea appeared, and first I rejected it because it's no, it can't look like that. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something, but not like that. And I am glad that my gut, because my head would have been in the way, but my gut said, you gotta take a closer look. And I think that made the difference. The real difference.
When you took a closer look, so you've already told these guys don't call you.
Yep.
So how did it get from, okay, don't call me, to that next look? What was that next look about?
Very simple. I called them and said, when are you going to call me? Isn't that what you guys do? So, so I actually turned into one of the guys.
So you were an active prospect. I mean, you were actually recruiting yourself at this point.
At that point, I was, and I can remember it. It's like, how things happen, and you meet people, and things just happen. I see it as it is today. I'm in the praxis where I was working, and it's about the end of the day, and out of the fax machine comes a fax. David Stolfu's PhD tonight in Nokomis sharing Nikan. Now, I thought I was the only guy in Florida. Here's a PhD, and he's in Nokomis, which is 10 minutes from me, and he's going to do a presentation. So I called my upline, Steve Bono, and I said, hey, we got to go there. There's a PhD. Now, it was a mistake on the flyer. It was actually David Stolfu's Platinum, but they made a PhD out of it. So I went to that meeting, which showed me a bigger picture and showed me also that I wasn't the first guy in Florida. and Dave said, well, if you really want to know more about the business, I'm going to do a training in Orlando, Florida this weekend on Saturday, and it's from 9 until 5. And I said, aha, there we go. That's the hook. Now we've got it. He's going to charge a lot of money for that. I said, how much is that? He said, $5. And I was like, $5 for the day? He says, yeah, I'm just covering the room. So I went there, and that's actually where I got literally all my questions answered.
Now that wasn't a hop, skip, and a jump away. Well, how far away was that? 3 hours, 2 hours? 2 hour drive.
2 hours, yeah.
Wow. Serious commitment in terms of investigating.
Yeah, and by that time, I've already saw the first results with the products, and on my patients, on Carol, my wife, on my son, things just happened, and but let me go to that meeting, that business meeting. There were a few things that really kind of opened Nikan to me, because I saw that there were real people. And you know Dave. I mean, he's a Royal Diamond today, and he's a down-to-earth person. And I really enjoyed that there was no hype. There was nothing that I thought, that I've heard, from other people, says hype and all that. It wasn't there. It was just it was very honest. And I think I needed that, I just needed a sense of, here's some people that have real hopes, wishes, and fears, and they want to, achieve something, and there are people that are willing to help. And there's, like I said, there's little things that really caught my attention. One of the things that Dave said in that meeting was, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And you've heard that, and we always point that out to people. If you want to create the life that you really want, it is really up to you. It is what you will do with it. And that was, I think, the most important thing, why I actually immigrated to the United States, to America, because I believed in that. I believed that if you really want to have a better life, that you can desire it, you can work on it, and you can make it happen. And when I heard, certain things that really reflected what I believed was true, it kind of really stamped it in my mind and my consciousness that this was the right thing, this was the right door to open, this was the right path to take. And then with every person that I met, it just, cemented that even stronger.
And that's kind of the same experience that I had when I first watched that Nikan video the first time, Humans Being More. I got the sense that the people being interviewed, not unlike this, but in very short sound bites, were sincere, honest. It was a reflection of what I felt was real, and then when I had my product experience, that validated for me that, wow, maybe this is exactly as I saw it, quite real. Your going silver in 14 days is not a common thing, especially then when the requirements were much higher than they are today, and especially with you having zero to no background in this type of business or these types of products. How do you explain that? What happened? What did you do?
Thank goodness I didn't know anything.
Okay, so for all those who are new watching this, it's actually an advantage that you don't know that much. Go on.
I find it actually an incredible advantage, because it was pure excitement. I mean, it was. I simply got caught in the moment of just being totally excited about a new life, and that it was possible. And I did whatever it took, because after that I was so stressed out I had to take a week off. I mean, I was so way out of my comfort zone. And I remember the last day I was at 4,500 points. Now at that time we had to do 20,000 points in 1 month. Today we have 12,000 points, and we could do it in 3 months. But it was the last day of the month, and I was at 4,500. At the end of the day, I was at 20,021 points. And if you would ask me what happened between 10 and midnight, I have honestly no idea what happened. But I knew one thing: it was going to happen. And I moved heaven and earth, literally.
Now, were you working with your sponsor at that time?
I worked with anybody that could help me. Anybody. It was just like, I mean, I've called everybody that I knew. I've asked everybody for help. And I had no idea. I think that was my greatest advantage. I had absolutely no idea. But, you know, to ask people for help, ask people for support. Yes, you know, there were some people that told me 10 years later, you know, I felt really sorry for you and I bought some products. But, you know, 10 years later, they bought a wellness home, a whole wellness home, because they saw, you know, finally, you know, they understood it also.
Okay. Well, you did not flatline at silver. You kept going. Within 15 months, gold. Shortly thereafter, a year later, you're platinum, and then on the way to road to diamond and royal diamond. So your track, your line is consistent. There's a consistent movement.
Absolutely.
So why was that so? What was it about that? What is it about you that allowed you to stay focused and consistent? Because there's like you said, it's up to you, right? And so there are people who sometimes they rest on their laurels, or don't just have enough of a conviction or a commitment to the future. Mm-hmm. What do you think is your key ingredient for that steadfastness and the focus?
Making Royal Diamond alive, making it not making it mean something that I saw somewhere. You know, it's like it was, well, who am I? If I'm a Royal Diamond, who would I be? How
did you connect to that? What was your exposure to that at that point?
Big events. Big events. The first one was in November 1995. At the time, they were called Diamond Invitational. And my upline, I think gold or platinum at the time, Bart Cotter, he just said, well, there's a Diamond Invitational. And I said, do I have to be invited by a diamond? And he says, Dave Johnson invited you, just come. So I packed the family into a car and we drove up there. And it again, you know, it confirmed again what my feeling was, that I have arrived at the right place. Everybody that I saw there, I mean, it's the first time I saw Reed Nelson and a lot of the top people, you know, that became my mentors and became people that really helped me grow along the way. And everybody was accessible, even though I was a crossline. I mean, I had nothing, you know, they had no vested interest in me or whatsoever. But there was the willingness just to share. And at that meeting, that was my first big event. I saw the awesomeness of the possibility, but I also saw what awesome life I could have and how important it would be to hold on. So the step for me became, from that moment on, I did not look at the compensation plan or the plan as something that was a stair-step thing. No, it was a consistent, like you said, you know, it was all moving towards the highest rank, towards Royal Diamond. Mm-hmm. But I had to become clear in my mind, well, what does that mean? What does it mean for me? I said, the longest time I had to spend is really to find out, well, who am I as a Royal Diamond? What would that look like? What does freedom really look like? What if my monthly my monthly income or my annual income becomes my monthly income? What if time and money would be of no option? What would my life look like? Those questions, I had to take time and think about them and make those real way before it happened. Anchor them in myself. And so
now, did you happen? Did Humans Being More training? Like, what were some of the tools that you had at your disposal that you felt that were critical in shaping your thoughts around this? Because before Nikken, your background was diverse, but it certainly didn't look like what you're talking about right now. So there must have been some kind of a shift in how you saw the world and how you saw your potential.
I think, before Nikken, I was already working. I knew that, how my thought is and how it affects my subconscious. I knew about those things, but it was more an esoteric thing, so it was not linked to anything. Here we were all of a sudden in a business where these same ideas, showed concrete ways to actually get there. And so when I went to 1995, also I went to my first Humans Being More training. I went there and expecting it'll be a business training. So I didn't get the message, it's like, wear some casual clothes. So I showed up, in more dressy clothes. And then I was completely surprised of what I experienced. And that a company of this caliber would take Humans Being More as one of the first trainings that they want you to go through, where it's all about you as a human being and how you can, help other people, help yourself and help other people, find balance in their life, how important that is, and how you connect it with everything that you do with everybody else. I thought was so significant, and again, even strengthened my belief in this being the right company, because I have not seen any company go to those lengths, or even open the door for people to say, hey, what do you really want? What is it that you want? And who does that today? Who has that opportunity?
Great point. In fact, I'm going to Humans Being More in Toronto this weekend.
Excellent.
Again.
Yeah.
Well, you had something very, very unique happen in a Nikken career.
Yes.
And I believe that was when you were at the launch.
I was 3 years.
3 years into Nikken?
3 years in the business.
Okay,
yeah.
So
and I did
you
not,
were platinum.
And I did not go. I was a platinum. No, I was a gold at the time.
Okay.
And here's an interesting aspect. I didn't go to the opening of Europe because my upline told me, well, don't go abroad until you're gold and making $5,000 a month. So I said, okay, probably know what they're talking about, so I won't go. I went for the World Convention in London, and so I went a couple of weeks earlier. That's 2 weeks earlier or so, and that's where something happened. Now I'm 3 years in the business, and that's actually when my business really started, because I met a gentleman that became only the 3rd Royal Ambassador and the first person to ever reach the Royal Ambassador level strategically. He mapped it completely out, and I think he reached it in 5 years or so, which is unbelievable.
And you met him at an event?
I met him at Nikken,
where he was there to investigate the possibility of taking Nikken into Germany prior to its launch, its official launch in Germany, and he didn't have a sponsor.
And ironically, he was introduced to Nikken in Florida by a massage therapist who sold him 2 pair of insoles and 2 back flexes. He must have thought, hey, this is the greatest thing, but never talked with him about the business, ever. And I always point out to people, just because you start this, you don't know whom you ever will be in front of. Show him the whole picture. Get him 100% informed.
That's a really great point, because I know there's a lot of people who think they're building a Nikken business,
Yep.
and their focus is the product. And if they get a product experience, if they get a product sale, they feel the job is done. Meanwhile, they may have, if they would have seen that person through the eyes of the 5 pillars of health, one of those pillars is finance, another one society. Imagine the difference they could make if this person saw the vision of Nikken and enrolled, much like the story you're telling. This person, by the way, we're speaking of is Wolfgang Sonnenberg, who became, I believe, the fastest royal ambassador in Nikken history. Yes. And you met him, and he did not have a sponsor. And how did that encounter happen, by the way?
Well, I flew over because at that time we still had to do what's called a 3% training. That means if you wanted to start in a country, you had to go to that country and you had to go through a training. And he showed up in the middle of it.
And by the way, for those who are listening, that's no longer required. You can now sponsor internationally at the senior level. Yes. So, wow, if things changed. So, but had you not made that trip, so there you are. At the 3% training.
But like all things in life, you know, it's like it happens for a reason.
Absolutely. And by the way, I just want to point this out because it seems to me that what you were speaking to before smacks of the law of attraction. Right. You had an intention. Your intention was Royal Diamond. You were starting to embrace the idea of who you would be and started to live in the shoes of that person.
Right.
And the law says that if you do that, if you act and live and breathe as if, then it will harden into fact. So, sure enough, who do you meet? One of the guys who's going to help you make that happen.
Now, in that moment when we met, I, of course, didn't even see that happening. I was not aware of that. You know, I just knew that. I said, you know, we have to wait until the end of the meeting, and then I can, because he wanted to know, well, somebody explained to me the marketing plan. And so I did. When we were done, Wolfgang Sonnenberg is a lawyer and a businessman who has a consulting firm and all that. So yes, he had a wonderful property in Hamburg. And so I tell him, so I'll explain this compensation plan to you. Lay down and I'm going to roll out your back. And he was like, almost like, is that necessary? I said, yep, that's that's actually part of the marketing plan. And then I went through the whole presentation. And at the end, of course, you know, the sales manager for Europe came in. He says, well, you can sign up under the person who introduced you first. Well, he wasn't there. And he says, well, what do I do then? And he says, you can sign up under whomever you want. And he pointed at me and says, how about this guy? And that was it. Now, for all the people that think, oh, wow, that's cool and easy, again, what was I doing for 3 years that made that happen? And so
you were planting the seeds, and you were about to reap the rewards of that, the harvest. Yeah.
So oftentimes when people say, "Oh, that was luck," and I said, "Yes, it was laboring under correct knowledge." You know, because I told myself when I was at home and we're in the stillness of our own environment, that is when I became a Royal Diamond. That's when I became a business partner. That's when I became a sponsor. That's when I became a leader. That's when I made myself that Royal Diamond. And that was hard work because sometimes I didn't believe it. Because if you are told, you know, 10 no's in a row and you have a presentation and all your guests don't show up, I mean, sometimes you do feel a little bit odd and say, well, you really think that's ever going to happen? And in those moments especially, I continued, I had affirmations, you know, about all 5 pillars of health. And one of them was, you know, it's like, successful business people are, I'm attracting successful business people. You know, my Nikken business is growing. I mean, I had a tape that I had some music in the background. I spoke the tape in my voice, and I listened to that every single day. In the morning, at night, you know, I really engulfed in everything. Really, I made it happen. And like you know, I mean, the law of attraction has to do with being very proactive about the life that you want. It's not something that you say once and then you wait for it and say, well, what's happening? Nothing's happening. No, you got to make it happen.
You got to walk in the shoes of the person you wish to be.
Right.
Rejecting all evidence to the contrary by your senses,
Yeah.
and soon enough it will harden into fact. That's one of my favorite lines from Neville Goddard, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. So you are definitely living proof. And in fact, what's interesting about most of the interviews with the Royal Diamonds is that there's a common thread in that they were first inspired and how they were first inspired. There was some deep sense about this. As well, this is obviously a story of personal development, and that truly means overcoming the lack and limitation of our belief system. And you're sort of going against the grain by imagining yourself in a bigger picture, in a greater light. You're going against the grain of the momentum of your life, or perhaps the momentum of the surroundings of the people around you. Now, I just want to mention, if you'd like to ask a question, please tweet us at Royal Alliance 1, or send us a chat message on our Facebook or our Google Plus platforms. You can just look for the Royal Alliance and send us a chat. We're watching both. We do have a question, by the way. This is from Graham Scarden on Twitter. He asks, if it's up to him, what's it going to be for Igor in the next 5 years? Igor only came on my radar last year. I like him. You know what? He's a little bit ahead of me, because I do want to get to the future.
Yeah.
And I guess what he's asking is, can you please paint a picture of what you're imagineering now in terms of the future? And I know you're in the trenches, so we'll get to that in a few more minutes. Let's just focus a little bit more time here on the early years and even the middle years, because I know we've all gone through crisis, because this is a business of personal development, which means as you break through various layers of who you are or who you think you are, you go through different metamorphoses. I mean, you come face to face with aspects of yourself you didn't even know you had.
Right.
And of course, when money starts rolling in, a lot of it, it can really be an interesting challenge, because people think, wow, once I get the money, then everything's solved. Is that the truth, or are there some challenges that go with that? Tell us about it.
Oh boy, there are challenges. Of course, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see that your annual income can become your monthly income, and of course, in the beginning, it's like a fairy tale. It's like something you wake up to. Yeah, it's just that happens to some people. And when I noticed it was starting to happen for me, when I hit 10,000 the first time, 20,000, and 50,000 for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute, I was number like 250,000 when I got into this. I mean, I had a question, why me? It's like almost I got guilty. Like I was looking for this. Well, we try to get something. We're doing something, and we think we got it. It gives us some special knowledge, and it lifts us above everything. And it was interesting. Every time I think I got it, I think I got whacked by this on the side, of my head, that I didn't get anything. It's like, oh yeah, I know how to sign people up now. Well, I think then I had to hear, a whole bunch of no's again. Or, like investing also, oh, now I can invest and I figured it out. Bang, no, nothing. I didn't get anything.
Yeah, and you and I have shared a fairly significant loss in terms of investment. So I swear I don't even want to mention it. I'm embarrassed to think about that.
But the interesting thing is, it's like when you understand that you're giving chances and choices, like to travel. I saw my kids grow up. My oldest son just turned 18. He was 4 months old when I started in Nikken. And one of my dreams was I wanted to be there. I wanted to actually see him grow up. My father wasn't there. I wanted to be there. Nikken made that possible. I saw him, grow up. I could sit on the sideline while he was practicing soccer. I could take him around the world to places that you only see in the geography books. I mean, that I can't weigh up in anything. Anything that we did or mistakes that we made along the way. The things that are priceless is what I was able to experience, you know, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son. I mean, I was able to fly my parents over. I remember when we were living in Seattle, I bought them first-class tickets, and they flew over. And I remember talking with my mother. She said, well, do you think this opportunity is going to last? I said, I just bought you first-class tickets. I'm doing pretty well.
I can certainly relate. I mean, you know, the truth is, it just makes you more of who you are. But
Yeah.
the money that is, but the what you're just showing right now, being able to do what so few people have been able to do through the course of a working life is remarkable. And what you're talking about is the true gift of Nikken, and that is the value of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, money you can always make, but you cannot replace those years. Those years they come and they go, and you cannot get them back. Wow.
Yep.
So if there's any young dads and moms out there looking at why Nikken and thinking, oh, this is going to cost you time and money, you're sharing, no, this is going to give you the life that you're after. Okay, well, I do know that there were some challenges. Were there times, Igor, when you felt maybe, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, given your story, that maybe this wasn't for you, or maybe, yeah? How did you get through those?
Especially
how did you get through those cavities, those caverns?
I would say, especially in the first year, it was really hard because, I mean, I was not the typical person that you would have on your name list of people that you would think that you would want to invite into your business. I just wasn't that guy. And it was very.
I've seen, by the way, I've seen photos. You've shared photos on stage of those early days. You were very thin and long hair, ponytail, and I saw the house and I saw the car, and it was like, wow, that is truly a rags to riches story for real.
But I also know, never underestimate whom you're talking to, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what they want for themselves. And two things, you know, my wife Carol, you know, she said, you know, once when she caught me again in my not feeling so well stage, she says, never quit when you're down. Never quit when you're down. And I think I took that one to heart. And another thing, when I woke up in the morning after I told myself, you know, or doubted that this may be the right avenue, I said, what on earth would I be doing? Going back to work in a job, work for somebody else's idea, not choose what I want? I said, I'm willing to give that sacrifice. And luckily I knew, you know, from our own family business that, you know, it takes 3 to 5 years to build anything. To learn any skill, to master anything, it takes time. It's not something that's going to happen in 3 months, 6 months, or a year. And I've seen too many people for whom it was exactly that. They want everything to happen like a lottery mentality. That has to happen now. I need it now. I'm not willing to have delayed gratification. Those are things that I think are so important. It's like, once I noticed I changed, the world was doing whatever it could, from my family to friends to acquaintance, to keep me where I was. And once I broke out, you know, there were a lot of people that say, well, I can't go that path with you. But you know what? I found a lot of people that were willing to go that path with me. And I always try to paint it like I love mountains. I love mountain climbing. I did that in my youth. And everybody likes looking at mountains, but very few like going up the mountains. And even few would like to go on very high mountains, especially in areas that, are not so comfortable. And it's kind of, my path to Royal Diamond was kind of like that. It was understanding that this was not something that you just zip through. I mean, you had to go through valleys. You had to climb up, difficult paths. You had to learn something about yourself, learn something about other people. I think the greatest...
Was there a rank? Was there a specific rank where maybe you had your greatest lesson in this business?
Platinum.
Go on.
I was at another big event, and I remember one of the leaders at the time saying, going to platinum is a walk in the park. I was like, I don't think so. It wasn't that easy for me. And yet, going from that level to diamond was a completely different ballpark, a completely different scenario. I've learned then a couple of things. The people who got you to silver or gold were not the people who got you to platinum. And I realized at that point that for me to be able to go to diamond and Royal Diamond, I needed to develop leaders. So up until platinum, it was about self-realization. Who am I in this business? Who am I being? What does this mean? And at platinum, it was kind of, wow, I need actually a team. Because getting to platinum, you can only do that without a team. You can get 6 silvers, and that doesn't mean that somebody really is going to go on. Silver is not a level that is that meaningful for people. You can see that they're really moving on. You can see that at gold and as platinum. So that was kind of a breakthrough experience for me, where I had to shift my thinking. I've kind of went through my own apprenticeship. I reached the first mastery in a sense, and now it was about teaching that. Teaching that, it's like, well, what does that mean? How do you get somebody there? How do you help somebody to get there? How do you understand that there is not much that you can do in motivating somebody else? But what can you do in listening to somebody? What is really truly important to them? And then support that wholeheartedly. And be there for that person without doing it for that person. Because, silver, you can help somebody do that. And it's not necessarily helpful. But moving beyond means that you have to just learn a different set of competencies and skills. So
wow, that's a great answer, boy. That's and for me, by the way, it was also platinum.
Yeah.
It was the peak of my frustration, and I think the beginning of my sense of humility.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, yeah,
yeah,
very similar. Cool. Okay, let's shift the gears here for a second, and let's move into the present / future, because right now you're in the throes of building a future. You're not resting on your laurels. You're engaged. You've got some business going in Peru. You've been down there a few times with the opening of Peru. Mm-hmm. You've got some local business, and you're expanding. Obviously, the new compensation plan is a motivator. Mm-hmm. It kind of gets all of us to re-examine our business and look at what do we want to do and how do we want to do it next. Mm-hmm. Has it got you excited?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't matter if it's a new product or if there are certain changes that Niken does. Niken proves itself always to be a leader. What makes me be very proud of being part of this company is that there's certain things I can just rely on the company doing. So I can do what I like doing best. Connecting with people and giving people hope. Giving people a sense that they can truly achieve their own freedom. I'm just a tool for, I always see myself as a tool for other people. I can be of service for other people. I can't build anything for somebody, but I can be there and I can say, you know, this is my story. This is what I went through. When I was in Peru, for example, you know, because for people everywhere, you know, income is a problem sometimes. And I said, you know what, I do understand. When I moved to the United States, I actually worked for $3.90 an hour in 1990 in Florida. That was how much minimum wage was, $3.90. I made $5,000 in my first year in the United States. So I know what it means to buy a car for $1,200 and have the engine explode the next day. You know, that cost me another $1,200 with a seat that has a spring that's broken and that you're sitting on. So that's not a lot of fun. But you know, I went through this, and despite of all that, I made something out of it. Because I believed, okay, I come from Germany, I had a very successful career in the fashion business, it was okay, I made good money, and then I go to the United States and work for minimum wage. Why on earth would anybody in their right mind do that? Well, one of the things that I've learned was I left to go to the United States because I believed there was something there that was not where I came from. I believed that everything was possible, that you can become a millionaire. I believed that. I mean, I became a millionaire because I believed it was possible. I didn't know any difference. And anywhere I go, I say, whatever, dream your life. Why not? Same thing in Peru, or if I go to Germany or in the United States. For me, it is important to, can I help somebody to get through the cobwebs that they have designed, the old tapes that are running, that's impossible, that, you know, I wish I would have. No, to break through that and to say yes to a future that is totally bright. Because, and for example, when we become Royal Diamonds, and as you know, we've gone on a ladder to climb, and after Royal Diamond there is, well, you're there. Mm-hmm. So it took me some time, because I went in 2002, and now it's 2013. That's 11 years ago. And 2 years ago, the shift happened for me. And it was a very simple question, which was kind of odd. You know, sometimes it takes time to get to the simple questions. And the simple question was for me, if I would, you know, be introduced to this opportunity today again, would I do it? And my answer was yes, I would. And I started exactly that. 2 years ago, I remember I was at the Royal Alliance. I was on stage and I said, you know, I'm very proud to tell you that I just broke my first silver on my way to Royal Diamond. And that created for me so much excitement, because when you move up the ranks, you can get sometimes lost, you know, in managing everything that you've created and that's there. And you miss out on the excitement and the fun that it takes actually to take a new person and see the glistening in their eyes of them actually getting what is possible for them. Seeing the opportunity for them, not me, you know, saying something that will maybe enlighten them, but them themselves seeing something. And that is something, you know, that I've seen in Peru now lately, here in the United States. You know, I was just in St. Louis 2 weeks ago, and we started a new group there. And just to sit around people that, you know, see possibility for their life, being in the buzz of that is really awesome. And last weekend we had Roger Drummer here. We had 120 to 130 people here. I mean, it was the biggest event we had in the last couple of years. So certainly something has happened, you know, for Nikken, shifting, renewing their products, having new products, changing the compensation plan has given anybody a new, anybody who's starting today actually has, I think, a much better opportunity that we had when we started. because
I totally agree with that.
we had very hard mattresses.
Well, not only the products, the innovation that we've gone through where the products are concerned,
Right.
but just how we do business. Just the fact that we could do what we're doing right now on this on this computer opens the entire planet to us.
Absolutely.
You know, and one of the advantages of having an international business, a company like Niken, that has a presence in almost 40 countries now, is, well, that wouldn't matter if you only, you know, had the means to operate within one. But we now have the tools and technology to operate it within all 40. We even have, I'm on Facebook, and you know, now they can tell if you're on, and somebody who may be on, who's your friend, can see that you're on, and the next thing you're receiving real-time text messages on Facebook. Well, I was getting Facebook text messages in Russian last night. So I copy-pasted, quickly turned to Safari, opened up the browser, went to Google Translate, pasted into English, got the English translation, flipped it wrote something in English, converted to Russian, copy-pasted it, went back to my Facebook app, pasted it in there, and sent. And I was having a two-way conversation like this with a person I've never spoken to before in a language I don't even know.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's phenomenal.
And that is what makes a business like this even more phenomenal today than ever before.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And you realize, you know, that truly the people are everywhere the same. We speak different languages, we have different cultures, we come from different backgrounds, you know, but if it boils down to, everybody wants a little bit more freedom. Everybody wants a little bit more financial freedom. The ability to dream up their own life, to design their own life, to be part of, you know, to give their families a better life. And that's just a phenomenal journey, you know, absolute phenomenal journey.
So what I hear you saying is you have a great joy now, this new chapter in your life. It reminds me of a book, and I can't recall the title, where they talk about levels of leadership. And it's you do your first level is like you become a leader, and then there's the cultivation of leaders, and then there's the mastery where you're helping those leaders create leaders. It's very much like network marketing.
Right.
So right now, what you're seeing, your joy, your passion is watching that, living vicariously through the experiences of these new people that you're bringing on. And you see your role as simply being who you are, being a testament to that part of the journey that they're on, that you were on, that you can have a compassion for that, simply because you've been there. And I think that's really what wisdom is all about. You offer wisdom to this process. By the way, I've just notified that the book that I was referring to is The 5 Levels of Leadership. Great book. Proven Steps to Maximize Your Potential by John C. Maxwell. Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah.
So, what's next for you? What's your vision in the next 5 years?
To travel to more countries around the world. I love experiencing new cultures. It's becoming friends with the people that you meet. You know, they invite you to their homes. It's truly a touching thing. Just to be able to know that this might be something I'll be doing until the end of my days, is something that gives me goosebumps. We know this with people, you know, that like Jim's Starnes from Atlanta. I mean, to see people that have grown up in this industry, have grown up in this business, that are way beyond retirement age, and they're still there.
And Jim is in his 90s. What, 90s. Probably 95 now?
Yeah, I mean, and
building an Niken business.
That's still, you know, see them, talk to them. it's at every stage, it's hopeful. You know, it's just hopeful that there is that potential, that possibility, especially in a time where so many people are, you know, afraid of things not being there, things not being as they used to be, the good old days. Well, you know, those good days are ahead of us, and we choose to participate in those if we want to. It will take a couple of entrepreneurial skills, you know, taking on definitions that we have, maybe misconceptions, like, for example, risk-taking, not seeing as challenging, but as just something that we deal with every day. Financial security, job security. I mean, forget about security. Have a life. There is no security in that sense. And just giving people, I mean, we're in changing times. Times are changing. And our world will be defined by entrepreneurs, by people that just go out and do it. You know, that take the risk where most people say, no, you shouldn't do it, you know, stay back. Where it's truly about, you know, what is it that you really want, and then go for it. You know, there's enough people that will support you, truly. And especially here in Niken, you know, there's a lot of people that will support you in whatever and wherever you want to go. And that's exciting, you know.
Well, there's no question about it. There's an entrepreneurial revolution taking place, and it's synonymous with the raising of consciousness. Simply put, the more evolved consciously you become, the more aware you become, the less bound you are,
Right.
the less bound by the obligations, rules, and social mores of whatever you were conditioned into. We break out of the box, if you will, and once the mind is expanded out of the box, it cannot go back in.
Exactly.
So what we're experiencing in the world right now is this entrepreneurial revolution, as people are becoming more empowered, self-actualized, and they're saying, I don't want to play by those rules anymore. First of all, they're corrupt as sin, and the people who control the rules are the ones who are the most corrupt. And so there's few playing fields that are actually level out there, and the rules don't seem to apply to some, and so it creates a distaste, which is really kind of good for us. It's kind of like the sand in the pearl that allows the pearl to emerge. Sometimes you need that grit out there in order to be motivated to step outside of the norm, step outside of the box, and start to look at the world with a new set of lenses, rather than one who's simply in the stream of life and just, you know, days go by and you don't even give thought to what are you doing. They're just sort of passing time as it's sort of handed out to you. Whereas when you get involved in a business like this around people who are conscious and conscientious, you start to hear conversations that are very different. You start to participate in those conversations and start to actually have an opinion, which is encouraged. Here we encourage you to have that opinion, to be, in fact, we get paid to have an opinion. You know, about Niken, about the products, about wellness, etc., about choices that one can make in their life that contributes to their life. Just final closing statements.
Well, you know, my statement at every closing is the same. Well, what if it's true? What if it could happen for you? You know, take the time to explore it, get 100% informed. If you have trouble with network marketing, get over it. It's time. This is 2013. And it's time to take, you know, your life in your own hand, because the security that we once relied on doesn't exist anymore. And neither will maybe social nets that, you know, like Social Security. They might not be there. So it's up to us to design a future that we can face with confidence. And again, you know, you're not alone in it. It's your business, but you're not alone. And it's really worth it. If my story has been something that inspires somebody, I know I've done my job, and I know that there's somebody like me 18 years ago that's just hoping, wishing, praying for a change. And this can be that change, and it's up to you. So, you know, take the bull by the horn and enjoy the ride.
Awesome. Igor, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us. My name is Mike DiMuccio. We were with Hanging Out with Mike DiMuccio, special guest Igor Gruendl, and until we see you again, enjoy every precious moment.